Hello Greenstylers! Welcome to the sewing tutorial for the Billie Shorts. The Billie Shorts is a great versatile pattern that can function as a visible panty line free undergarment, loungewear, or pajamas. This video includes the optional button placket, the seamless back, and the exposed elastic waistband. You'll need up to 3/4 of a yard of 50% horizontal and 30% vertical stretch fabric. Cotton Lycra, bamboo spandex, and lightweight athletic brush poly are some great options. And here are the pieces that you'll need to cut. Piece B1 back front main. Cut 2 on the outer cut line or cut 1 on the inner fold line. Cut one of piece B to the center front piece. Be sure to transfer the notch from your pattern piece to your fabric, and if you're adding the button placket, transfer those placement markings onto your fabric as well. Cut one of piece B3, the liner piece. Make sure to transfer the notch from the pattern piece onto your fabric. Cut one of piece B4 for the optional button placket. Find the top edge of the liner. It's the smaller edge without the notch. This is the edge that we'll neaten using our serger or a zigzag stitch. I like to use the serger to neaten my edge with a lengthened serger stitch. Place the liner onto the center front piece, matching notches and with wrong sides together. Pin or clip in place matching raw edges. Baste the 2 long side edges of the liner to the front center piece. For the optional button placket, you'll begin by folding 3 of the edges in 1/4 inch. I'll be marking 1/2 inch from the edge to give myself a guideline for folding. Press the fold in place. I like using spray starch to give it a nice crisp fold. Either hand stitch or use a sewing machine to attach 2 or 3 buttons to the front placket. Consult your user's manual, but here's a demonstration of how my sewing machine button foot works. I begin by attaching the button foot and then turn off the feed dogs. Set the machine to the number 8 zigzag stitch. Some machines you must switch the stitch length to 0, but on my machine the stitch length doesn't matter since the feed dogs are not functioning. I recommend marking your button placement prior to beginning this step, but I just eyeballed it. Carefully place the button underneath the button foot and then manually turn the needle up and down a few times to determine whether or not the width of the zigzag stitch needs to be adjusted. Adjust as necessary. Once you're certain that the needle will not hit the button, go ahead and use your foot pedal to quickly stitch the button in place. Leave the thread tails long and use a hand needle to thread them back through to the wrong side. Make a few knots to secure and repeat for the remaining button or buttons. Place the placket onto the center front at the dashed markings. I find pressure tape or a wash-away adhesive tape useful in holding this in place while you stitch. Top stitch in place using a slightly lengthened straight stitch. Place the center front B2 onto the back front main B1 with right sides together and matching raw edges. Stitch with a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. If you lengthened your serger stitch length for step 1, the top of the liner, make sure to switch it back. Now we'll pin the other side of the center front to the other side of the main piece. So I'll just slide the main piece over, find the other side, and bring over that front center piece. Align the raw edges with right sides touching and pin or clip in place. If you cut 2 of the main pieces, you'll just be clipping or pinning to the other main piece. Stitch with a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And we're moving right along. Here's how our piece looks at this time. If you are making the seamed back version, you'll line up the 2 pieces right along this edge, stitch with a stretch stitch or serger and 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now with the shorts still inside out, we'll open them up just like so in order to find the center front and center back bottom edges. Before pinning or clipping these 2 curved edges, it will be helpful to find the center of both. I've marked the center of the back curve, and the center of the front curve is probably still marked with a notch. Begin by lining them up at the center and pin or clip in place. And then pin or clip both bottom edges together. Add as many clips as needed, being sure to line up the 2 pieces right at the 3/8 inch seam allowance line. Then stitch together using a stretch stitch or serger and a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Optionally, you can press the seam to the back and top stitch in place if desired. I like to use a simple zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. This is particularly helpful if you dislike the feel of this seam when worn, and can also be done after construction. Hem the bottom of the legs by turning under 1/2 inch and stitching with a cover stitch or stretch stitch. Neaten the top edge of your shorts with a serger or zigzag stitch. Again, I'll be using a lengthened serger stitch. If you've chosen the fabric covered elastic option and would like to see my video for that, head on over to the Briney top sewing tutorial video. The Briney is a top, but the steps for that band are exactly the same as this fabric covered elastic. For the exposed elastic waistband, we'll fold the elastic piece in half to form a loop, aligning the short edges. Stitch together using a shortened straight stitch. Open the seam allowance and use a tight zigzag stitch to stitch down these raw edges and prevent fraying. Before attaching the elastic to the shorts, you may find it helpful to mark the quarter points on both the elastic and the shorts. Then slip the elastic over the top of the shorts, overlapping the edges by 1/4 inch only. If you finish the top edge using a serger, it's very easy to do this because you'll simply cover up the serger stitches. Pin in place matching quarter points. Another useful tool that we found during this step is wash away adhesive, also known as pressure tape or Wonder Tape. Stitch in place using a stretch stitch or a cover stitch. I'll be using a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. And just like that, you are done. Congratulations on completing your very own Billie shorts. Enjoy wearing them as an undergarment, to bed, or just around the house, and they also pair great with the Bobby Brahmi. Thanks for joining me today for this Billie shorts tutorial. I can't wait to see what you've made. Please share your makes across social media using hashtag #GSBillieShorts. Until next time, happy sewing from me and all of us at Greenstyle.